Good morning to everyone, and welcome to the EAC and Democracy Fund Voice second annual language summit for voters. I'm Matthew Masterson. I'm the chairman of the Election Assistance Commission. It's good to see all of you here this morning. We're so pleased to co-host this event with Democracy Fund Voice and continue the great work that we did last year with the Language Access Summit. It's great to see so many of you gathered here today, and I'd also love to give a special welcome to those watching the streaming video on eac.gov and streaming live. So as you make your comments, keep in mind not just the folks in this room, but folks from around the country are watching and paying attention. Before I offer just a couple of brief opening remarks, I have a couple quick housekeeping notes that I've been asked to share with you. First is silence your cell phones, make sure everything's on vibrate so that we can have a nice peaceful meeting today without ringing and buzzing. Next, I encourage you to pick up copies of the materials from this summit and information that speakers have provided on the back table back there on the far right. This information will be also posted to eac.gov under our Language Summit page and is available for all to take advantage of. Next, I've been asked to make sure everyone here personally in attendance knows that bathrooms are, I think, to the right down the hallway here. So just head around the corner. That's perhaps the most important announcement I'll give you today. And last thing is, if you're on a panel, if you're one of our panelists, one, thank you for being here and taking the time. But two, please gather before your panel, about 10 minutes before your panel, right behind the cameraman over here where Sean Green is playing Vanna White and waving. That's a dated reference, even though she's still on TV. So just gather there about 10 minutes before your panel so that we can make sure you have everything you need. All right, let's get started. Many of you have heard me talk about or reference the concept of election speed or election standard time. This, by definition, means everything in the election world moves in a predictably fast pace. There are hard deadlines, election days, and there's little tolerance for falling behind schedule. For election officials, every day is one day closer to an election. Every hour is 1 hour closer to an election. So today, it's nice to take a deep breath and to talk and pause to form our standard activities and focus on important aspects of our work, which is making elections accessible for all Americans, including those with limited English proficiency. Easy for me to say. Language access is not a new concept here in America. In fact, our nation's founding fathers firmly believed that our democracy would best take hold if its leaders did not tell people what they should say, nor dictate how they say it. Perhaps that's why the Continental Congress translated several key documents, including the Declaration of Independence and Constitution, into German and French for citizens across America to understand. Leaders like Virginia's own Thomas Jefferson strongly encouraged establishing universities that would teach in French, Spanish, German, and other languages. Our founding fathers knew that the rich fabric of our democracy, its diversity, made it unique and would sustain us for generations to come. Today's summit features some of our nation's most respected and innovative leaders in the area of language access. These talented men and women will help us tackle important questions, including how to respond to the needs of an ever-changing electorate, how to best comply with federal law, how to effectively communicate with a diverse voting population, and for election officials, perhaps most important of all, how to pay for it all. The EAC is excited to be a part of today's summit, and we're committed to taking the lessons we learned here back to the office to help inform our work moving forward. The goal of that work is in part to provide election officials valuable resources to help them better serve voters and to protect their most valuable resource, time, the one thing they cannot get more of. I'd like to thank our speakers here today, our partners at Democracy Voice Fund, my colleagues at the EAC for making today's gathering possible. Commissioner McCormick, who I know wishes could be here today, created this idea for holding a language summit and worked with then Chairman Hicks to make it a reality last year. I'm thrilled to follow up on their hard work, build off of that commitment to language access by holding this summit today and by creating tangible steps forward to improve language access for voters. Thank you to Cameron Sasnett from Fairfax County, Virginia, for hosting us all and welcoming us to his county. Now I'm happy to introduce to you State Senator David Marsden, who represents the 37th District that includes Fairfax County, here where we sit. Senator Marsden has a reputation for putting progress before partisanship, and we welcome him to today's events to welcome you all here to Fairfax County. Senator Marsden, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the Commonwealth of Virginia. Does anyone know what a Commonwealth means versus a state? There's absolutely no difference. I don't know, we just call it a Commonwealth. But I had the privilege of serving for 4 years in the House of Delegates here in Virginia, which is the successor after the Revolution to the House of Burgesses. This is where it all started here in Virginia. The whole idea of democracy and voting, although the early House of Burgesses members had to deal with absolute veto by the royal governor, but still, it was an idea that people could get elected and serve to represent their communities. And ever since we started democracy, there have been problems. All kinds of problems with voting and who should vote and how they should vote and when they should vote. But we have to keep these things in perspective. Things are never as bad as they seem. Things are never as good as they seem. And I learned a valuable lesson last year. I was in Kentucky listening to the University of Kentucky basketball coach, John Calipari, talk about perspective. He says, my dad was always real big into perspective. Things are never as bad as they seem. Things are never as good as they seem. Keep it in perspective. And then my sister went away to college. And we didn't hear from her for 3 months. Finally, we got a letter that said, "Dear Mom and Dad, sorry I haven't written. Things have been kind of hectic around here. My dorm burned down. But don't worry, I found a great place to live. And I have a fabulous roommate. I know you're going to love him." And the exciting thing is he's been out of rehab now for 4 weeks, and we're really, really excited about his potential. And at age 41, he's got to get things together. But the most exciting part is I know how much you are going to enjoy being grandparents. Well, got to run now. I'll write soon. Love, Susie. P.S. Everything I just told you was a lie, but I did flunk chemistry, so keep that in perspective. It is. Problems are difficult. I grew up just a little ways from here in an 1890s little farmhouse that was the original Woodburn Elementary School. And when I was growing up, I grew up in segregated Virginia. The African American children who lived across the street from me didn't go to my new school. They had to go to a school in Falls Church. African American teenagers didn't have an opportunity to go to the local high school. They had to drive all the way to Manassas in another county to go to school. And the whole idea in Virginia, in our 1902 Constitution, was to make it difficult for minorities to vote. We had a poll tax. We had a test on literacy. We had a situation where they made certain that certain misdemeanors made you ineligible to vote. Not felonies, misdemeanors, to suppress minority voting. And now there are other activities going on in this country that tend to suppress votes. And we need to be doing the exact opposite. We need to find voter access to make voter access our goal, whether that's through language, whether that's through outreach. But the whole idea of America and what makes America work is that we get everybody involved. Unfortunately in Virginia, and it's probably paralleled in other states, we get a 70% plus turnout in a presidential year. This year our governor is up for election, and we'll probably get somewhere in the 50% range. When I'm up for election in 2 years, we'll get a 30% turnout, because it's just state senate, House of Delegates, and local boards of supervisors, no statewide offices. And the whole notion here is to provide access to people, to find encouragement to people, to be welcoming to people, to make sure everybody gets to the polls, everybody participates in our democracy, and that just filters out through the rest of everything we do in this country to get people to create one United States of America certainly with different heritages and different traditions, but all of us coming together around our democracy and the need to participate. And I really appreciate the fact that you are taking on this important work and that you're doing it right here in my district. In 2 years, we're going to be celebrating the 400th anniversary of the creation of the House of Burgesses and democracy in this country, right here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I know all of you come from places all around the country with your own unique challenges. We've been at it for 400 years and we still have difficulty. But keep it in perspective. We'll get this done. Thank you so much for the work that you're here to do and for inviting me to welcome you to this wonderful conference, and to thank our panel and all the people who are going to be presenting to you today. So let's get going and get this done. Thank you so much. It's good to see you.
Good morning. My name is Ambrogi. I'm the director for the elections team at Democracy Fund Voice, a private foundation created by Piero Midyar, who founded eBay. I wanted to welcome everyone here today and give a couple of quick thank yous and frame out why, from Democracy Fund Voice's perspective, we feel this is just such an important event to have. I think that the entire team that we have had, especially Stacy Scholl, a senior program associate, and our senior fellow Terry Alminis, who's also just been a leader on language access for her entire career, really crystallized over the last couple of months, where basically we determined there needed to be a redux of last year. Last year was a great all-day event where we brought together advocates and election officials to talk about the challenges with translation, challenges with outreach. We, throughout the last 11 months, had been hearing from folks in the community, hearing from election officials as well as advocates, both about the event and about the learnings that were exchanged last year. And so we determined, with the leadership of our staff as well as the leadership of the Election Assistance Commission staff, Chair Masterson, Commissioner Hicks, and Commissioner McCormick, that we needed to do this again. And so want to thank all of those folks for making this happen, as well as the great folks at the Northern Virginia Community College for hosting us in this beautiful space and room. And I'll introduce one of their senior leaders in just a moment. You know, the question is, why are we out here? A lot of folks that are from the advocacy community or election officials that are in DC, they're used to the Metro Center conferences, and they're used to hanging out and just metroing along. Annandale's a little bit of a hike, especially with traffic, especially in the morning. The reason why we had this last year in College Park and this year we had it in Annandale is that we felt it was really important to go where the community that we're talking about lives. It's really important to try to immerse ourselves in the actual physical space that of the community of which we're talking about. And for example, when I have done election observation in the past, in 2008, I went to do a full-day observation with permission of the Fairfax General Registrar in Annandale, Virginia. And I spent a full day in 3 or 4 polling places around Fairfax. One of those places was a community center in Annandale, Virginia, where there is a huge Korean American population. And I have to tell you, when you sit all day and you watch members of the community of varying different language skills and access, of various ages and backgrounds, different families coming together to vote, folks trying to make their way through the ballot, sometimes getting it and understanding the voting information, sometimes having a little bit of trouble and needing some support from the election official or from someone that they bring in with them to help them figure out what the instructions are. And then seeing folks leave, some with a little bit of either a tear in their eye, or some with sort of a smile, a satisfaction that they'd actually been able to do what they had accomplished, and that was to get into the polling place, to choose the candidate or candidates of their choice, and vote. And as much as you can, make that vote privately and independently. I think for me, seeing that and seeing the expressions of those folks from the community really drives home why we are here today and why we are physically here in Annandale, Virginia today, because it is incredibly important that we do outreach to communities that need assistance. And whether it's coverage under Section 203 of the Voting Rights Act, or whether election officials determine this is a constituent service that we want to be able to provide information to our voters in the language that we know they speak. We think that it's important that we get together, we share best practices, we find a place where advocates and election officials can get together, build community, build best practices, build on technology, build on innovation, and share that with each other personally, with folks watching online, as well as trying to figure out a pathway forward. So all day today, I encourage folks to stay active in listening and talking with other folks about new ideas, trying to figure out how we share and identify best practices and figure out the right way to move forward. So with that, I really want to thank and introduce our host today, Rosie O'Neill, who's a board member of the Northern Virginia Community College. She currently is serving as Deputy Director of the Landegger Program in International Business Diplomacy at Georgetown's SFS, School of Foreign Service. She has received an MBA from Harvard Business School and a bachelor's in international economics with honors from the International Business Diplomacy from Georgetown. She's worked in both the public and the private sectors, including holding positions at the National Security Council, the U.S. Department of Treasury, J.P. Morgan, Financial Advisory, and M&A, M&A Latin America. Her areas of specialty include strategic development, program development, management, academic, and career advising. And so with that, I'd like to both welcome everyone here today, this morning, from Democracy Fund Voices perspective, as well as a warm thank you to our host today, Rosie. Appreciate it.
Good morning, everyone. I had the honor to meet several of you as we were waiting to get the program started. And I'm mindful of your schedule. You have a full schedule. Congratulations for an amazing agenda today. And as someone who facilitates groups, I can understand that we want to keep things on time. But I do want to extend a particularly warm welcome to those of you that have traveled from far and wide, and to those of you that are joining us remotely, and appreciate your engagement on this topic. And so I want to start by welcoming you to the campus. Annandale, as Adam pointed out, this is a very rich and diverse community. And I want to extend particularly un bienvenido a todos. Yo también soy de habla hispana y ojalá que pasen un buen tiempo hoy día juntos, celebrando la diversidad y la oportunidad de proveer acceso de lenguaje apropiado para las elecciones. Northern Virginia Community College frames, I think, well how our environment offers you a platform to access the work that you're going to do today in a space that we can well relate to. We're really enthusiastic about Democracy Fund Voice being here on campus, and particularly in our beautiful campus on Annandale. NOVA is the largest public education institution in Virginia and the third largest community college in the nation. We host approximately 76,000 students annually at the college. It's really quite an impressive number, and we do that using both on-campus and remote education options, much like you are doing in your work. NOVA is also one of the most internationally diverse colleges in the United States, and we host students from more than 180 countries. So we really get the importance of access. In large part, the work that you are doing and the impact of your work is going to immediately and of significant consequence affect the communities that we serve. As an individual, I can personally and professionally relate to the work of Democracy Fund Voice. As the chair of the governance committee for the community college, as Adam pointed out, I am especially interested in creating the right environment for good governance, for improving access to information, fomenting transparency, preparing our board that comes from all of the member affiliated regional areas of Northern Virginia to improve decision-making and support the college and the state's objectives. So that's kind of the professional side, the interest in governance, as well as my time in public service and really being a witness to what governance is like at the national level. But at a personal level, I have really great empathy for the challenge that's in front of you. Adam pointed out the emotion that he witnessed in election, and I gotta tell you, 40 years later, every single time there's a national election, I really get choked up, and it really doesn't matter the outcome. It's about having the opportunity to vote. My own family is an immigrant family. We came from Latin America, and I remember well coming to the United States and watching my parents struggle with both the nuance and the process. We had come from a very different political and social construct. At the time, we were living in one country in Latin America. It was a military state. There was no voting. When we came here, we had a voice, and we were able to, my parents were able to, I guess in those days there was punching chads. I don't know that there was a lever in our center. But in any case, I remember how challenging it was for them to understand the process and to participate in something they really wanted to do. My own high school teachers were really instrumental. I was in a very diverse community in northern Jersey when we moved from Latin America, and I remember them teaching us the importance of civics. And they emphasized the importance of the rights and the duties of citizenship. And they taught us about finding and using our own voice. They taught us governance principles. They taught us how to engage in local campaigns. We learned about registration processes, about canvassing. We talked and we listened to people that came from many different countries around the world, right a stone's throw from Ellis Island. We helped register voters. We really wanted to inspire people that came from other places of the world to the United States to exercise their voice and their right to vote. And I often wonder why we don't teach civics in that way anymore. It's woven into other content, and yet not that specifically. Curiously, this weekend, I hosted a gathering at my home, kids getting back from college, graduating, and this whole group of young adults were all immigrant children or first-generation Americans. And one of the things they were talking about is they were reflecting on the frustration that they find when they meet colleagues, friends of theirs in their own circles that don't participate. They don't engage for whatever reason. And one of them noted that often he hears that they don't engage because they don't have access to information. And so the others said, how is that possible? This generation does not have the excuse that our parents had of not having access to information. They talked about how they themselves learned civic lessons, particularly recently, through the internet, through social media, through campus and community groups. And so I told them about this presentation I had the honor to welcome today, and they were so excited to hear that your work is being done and that you are connecting directly to communities, but also connecting to some of these amazing other groups that extend your work and have a multiplier effect. In reflecting on the welcome today, it occurred to me that we, Northern Virginia Community College and Democracy Fund Voice, have similar missions. At NOVA, we are in the business of education with a purpose to create specific outcomes. We design our work to educate students with the goal of preparing them toward job readiness, economic growth, personal growth, and access to opportunity. We make education affordable, accessible, and intentional. To deliver on the mission, we immerse ourselves in the understanding that our communities have different needs. Our employers, our students, our families, all have a different need and a different need for access to understanding. So we ask the question, it's a design question, how might we design an education platform that best meets the needs of our students and communities to ensure the outcomes of job readiness and personal growth? Similarly, Democracy Fund Voice designs its work around education with the goal of preparation for civic engagement, advocacy, improved governance, transparency, participation, and to create at its core an active citizenry. So I understand that today, in particular, you're here to develop best practices, to ideate, to share, to support language access to drive engagement. So my question to you is, what will be your frame? What will be your how might we? How will each community represented here and remotely address the how might we question? I wonder what is unique about each of your individual communities that compels you to design access that is specifically targeting your unique community's profiles to achieve the best outcomes you can. So I am excited to learn more about your work, about the outcomes you're achieving across the country. Your work will affect our community in Northern Virginia very directly and in meaningful ways. So with that, I wish you all a productive day in this wonderful education space we call NOVA. I hope you will be inspired to immerse in the work, to listen and learn from each other, to design best practices to support the critical work of making our democracy better, stronger, more transparent, inclusive, and certainly our citizens better informed and engaged. Thank you all very much for being here. Enjoy today, and I hope you have great success.
Thank you, Ms. O'Neill, for those welcoming remarks and for welcoming us to this beautiful facility. Next, I have the pleasure of introducing the Fairfax County Registrar of Voters, Cameron Sasnett. Cameron officially became the Registrar of Voters in October of 2015. As the Registrar for the largest jurisdiction in Virginia, among many tasks, he provides information in Spanish, Vietnamese, and then voluntarily in Korean as well to the community here in Fairfax County. Prior to his appointment, he served as an election consultant to both the State Board of Elections in Virginia and Fairfax County, as well as other jurisdictions. Perhaps more importantly, prior to that, he served as a firefighter and paramedic and a certified emergency management specialist, which in elections I think is the best qualifications you can have. And I'm sure you use that training often for what you do. So with that, I'll welcome Cameron up, and thank you for having us in Fairfax County and welcoming us.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Fairfax County. As Matt mentioned, actually I should say Chairman Masterson. Congratulations, by the way. As Chairman Masterson mentioned, my name is Cameron Sasson. I'm the General Registrar for Fairfax County. One of the unique things about Fairfax County and the Commonwealth is that we are one of the largest locality in Virginia and one of the largest localities in the country as well. In addition to being having a huge size, we also have a very unique electorate in Fairfax County. We are a very diverse group of residents, 1.1 million residents, and we have 700,000 registered voters in there. Having proximity to the nation's capital and access to great resources like Northern Virginia Community College, George Mason, Georgetown University, and a number of other great universities and colleges very near to us gives us a very well-educated electorate. What we have found and we know is that within a large group of people, there are underserved communities. And when Section 203 came out with the new requirements in December, we found out that we had Vietnamese to add on. It was very easy for us to say, okay, we've got to do this. We dived in and looked at the numbers, and we knew that we had a very engaged Korean community. So when we looked at our numbers, we said that number that requires us to cover a language for Korean is just under that threshold. So we made a very conscious decision to go ahead and cover Korean because we knew that the best way to serve our voters is to make sure that we provide every resource that we know that they need. And if it's just there, we're going to go ahead and cross the line and make sure that we get those resources to them. So I know we are running short on time, so I'm not going to belabor too much. My hope is to get just as much out of this discussion today as I hope to actually provide to everybody else and some of the experiences in going through and adding Spanish back in 2011, and then now adding 2 Asian languages currently right now. One of the unique things Senator Marsden mentioned is that next week we have our first election that we're rolling our new languages out. So the deep breath that Chairman Masterson made mention to, it's nice to have that today and kind of look and take some notes and hopefully take away really good things to better serve our voters. So welcome to Fairfax County. We are celebrating our 275th anniversary this year. So in addition to being a very large county, very well-educated county, we have a great history. And if you are sticking around for any portion after this conference, I welcome you to enjoy a little bit that the county has to offer. We've got some great historic sites. One of the best things that you can do is take a visit on over to Mount Vernon and check out where George Washington made his home. And then if that's not enough for you, George Washington now has the Mount Vernon area has a still where they are making some of George Washington's old booze. So again, it's some of the fun things that we do in Fairfax. It's not all seriousness. We like to have fun. We make sure that we do everything that we're required to do, plus everything that we know that we need to do. So again, I look forward to taking away just as much today for me as I hope to provide to it, and I appreciate the EAC and the Democracy Fund for hosting this, and definitely to Northern Virginia Community College for giving us a great venue to have this all in. So with that, thank you all.